Hola amigos y bienvenidos de nuevo. Hoy vamos a hablar sobre los verbos irregulares, starting with our AR verbs here. Alright, so in this presentation, guys, we are going to be going pretty quickly through this material, being that it's mostly a review over our regular verb notes. The only difference that we're going to be seeing that makes these verbs irregular is the fact that there is a change in the stem. Remember, the stem is the first portion of the verb, not including the infinitive ending. Something that is hugely important to remember is that the nosotros form and the vosotros forms are wholly unaffected by the stem change in the present tense. Alright, so for AR verbs, you have two possible changes in that stem. You either have E to IE or O to UE. And the endings, fortunately, are the exact same as those we learned for those regular verbs. Remember the little melody? O, as, a, amos, ais, and an to the stem. Okay, so here we go. Our first verb that we're going to look at here is pensar, which is to think. And it tells us here that this is an E to IE stem change. So we see the E here in the stem portion of the verb, pensar, and we see that it does indeed change to IE. But then we finish writing the stem with the N and the S. We did take off that infinitive ending AR, and we did put in the new ending that matched our subject pronoun yo. And so in this sense, it is yo pienso. Next we see tú piensas, following that same pattern, ella piensa. Check it out here though, we have nosotros pensamos. We see no stem change here whatsoever. That E stayed the same. Same thing for our vosotros form. We simply see pensáis. Remember, every time that we have an irregular verb in that present tense, the nosotros and the vosotros forms will go unaffected. All right, we see our stem change come back around though, our ellos form of piensan. All right, here's another. This one, however, is an O to a UE. We see the verb encontrar. This O changes in that stem when we conjugate it to UE in each of these forms. So we have yo encuentro, tú encuentras, usted encuentra. Again, though, we do see the encontramos, very important, and the vosotros encontráis, no stem change. And then we come back around to that UE for the ustedes form, encuentran. Here's one more. This is considered a U to UE. Jugar, it's the only one that we're going to be working with that has this difference. And it is jugar, to play, and it becomes juego. Juego. U to UE. Tú juegas, él juega. Nosotros jugamos. Vosotros jugáis. And then ellos juegan. All right. That brings us into our ER verbs now. So ER verbs also have two possible stem changes, and guess what? They're identical to our AR. It's either E to IE or O to UE. And the endings never changed from our regular verbs. Remember, the AR verb endings, in order to make them the ER verb endings, we substitute every letter A for the letter E. We can remember that. We'll have no issue going forward. So, the first one here is the E to IE. We have querer, and this E becomes that IE right there in that stem to give us yo quiero, tú quieres, ella quiere. We have the nosotros queremos. Make sure you're pronouncing those vowels well. Vosotros queréis y ellas quieren. Another E to IE, this one we've actually worked with quite frequently. We might not have just noticed the stem change that we've been substituting. So tener is this verb that is to have. We are very familiar with that yo form. We have yo tengo. And you might notice that that is completely different than the verb itself. And that is because tener also has an irregular yo form. I like to call tener and verbs like this to be extra irregular. Because not only do they have a stem change, but they also have a special yo form. All right, so let's continue. For the rest of it though, we do see the normal stem change, the E to IE, all throughout, minus, of course, the nosotros and the vosotros form. Tenemos y tenéis. Okay, we see poder, which is an O to UE here, and this one is standard, not extra irregular, just the normal podemos y podéis. And then we do see a few ER verbs that are irregular only in the yo form. Just like this, we see yo hago, for hacer, to do or to make. But if we notice all the subsequent conjugations down here, there's no stem change. It conjugates just like a normal verb. Haces, hace, hacemos, hacéis, y hacen. And then we do see another one familiar here for poner, or to put. This is yo pongo in that yo form only. And then we see it conjugate as a normal verb throughout. Pones, pone, ponemos, ponéis, y ponen. Y saber. Saber. This one's important because we use this pretty frequently, talking about things that we know. If I say I know something, it is yo sé. Yo sé. But if you know something, it becomes tú sabes. She knows, ella sabe. Nosotros sabemos, vosotros sabéis, y ellas saben. And ver. Ver is to see, that yo form, veo. The rest, my friends, again, just like a normal verb, right there. All right, so talking a little bit about sentence formation. So we're pretty comfortable forming sentences and questions with one verb. However, today we're going to be looking at expanding on that using more than one. So we have an example here. We have ella tiene un gato. She has a cat. Or my question, does she have a cat? Is tiene ella un gato? However, when we are looking at including a second verb in a sentence, okay? So if you have two verbs beside one another, right? The first verb is conjugated to match the subject, as always, and the second verb is in the infinitive. So, we see a few examples here. We have yo quiero. Quiero is conjugated for my yo, my subject here. And then I see my second verb, cantar. And I didn't conjugate it. And the reason why is we can see in this translation over here, I want, even in English, right? My want is conjugated to match I, my subject. But then if you look here, to sing, it is also in my infinitive in English. So naturally, it's going to be in my infinitive in Spanish too. So if you want to make a sentence negative using two verbs, the same rules apply. The no simply continues to stay in front of that first verb. So to say they do not want to read a book, it's simply ellos no quieren, matching that subject there, leer in its infinitive form, un libro. We see more examples here. Podemos, we can, bailar, dance well. We can dance well. So even if we don't have in English the to dance, know that in Spanish, they will always follow this pattern. Don't know why I made that mark there. So verb comes directly before another verb. First is conjugated, second is in the infinitive form. And then we have another question. ¿Podemos tú encontrar la fiesta? Can you find the party? All right, and that brings us into our last portion of the irregular IR verbs. So the only difference here is that the IR verbs have three possible stem changes. They have what our AR and ER verbs had as far as stem change goes, which is the E to IE or the O to UE. However, the new stem change that we see for IR verbs is this E to I. And again, we're super lucky because those endings for the IR verbs stay the exact same from what we saw prior. The O, es, e, imos, is, and en. So here we go. Preferir. This is considered to be an E to IE stem change. We see this second E in the stem changes. So we have yo prefiero, tú prefieres, él prefiere. We see the nosotros preferimos. Remember, it is still the nosotros and vosotros forms that are unaffected by that stem change. And then my ellos prefieren. Here is an example of an E to I. It is pedir. And this E changes right there in the stem to pido, pides, pide. Ustedes pedimos, ustedes pedís, and then ustedes piden. All right. And our last one that we're going to look at is an example of an O to UE stem change, and that is seen in the verb dormir. Is O here in the beginning changes that U to UE. For yo duermo, tú duermes, ella duerme. And then I stay regular for dormimos, dormís, and I go back for my ellos duermen. All right, guys. I think that about covers it here for now. Remember, our Quizlet has each of these verbs listed in the set, and they also tell which kind of stem change it is. So, if you have any questions, as always, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have un maravilloso día y nos hablamos pronto. Adiós, amigos.